Hey, my name is Elijah, and today I would like to show you how to deploy a virtual server on Alibaba Cloud. Now, if you're familiar with cloud computing platforms, you will know that most platforms like AWS, Google Cloud Platform or GCP, Microsoft Azure, Oracle Cloud, and many others, they offer what we call a trial credit. Now, this credit is free to use. You can use it to deploy test applications. Obviously, the credit may not be so sufficient to deploy enterprise level applications, but they're enough for you to do a test drive on the platform. Now, similarly, Alibaba Cloud also offers the free trial credit that you can make use of, so you can do a test drive on the platform and see how it works. The credit offering by Alibaba Cloud is relatively different from the other platforms. For example, AWS offers more credit scheme. Now, I mean credits compared to what Alibaba Cloud offers. But still, in this video, I would like to show you how to do it. Now, the first time when you sign up for Alibaba Cloud, you automatically become eligible for the free trial credit scheme. I've actually written a detailed article that you need to know. You need to know everything about Alibaba Cloud free credit. I have a couple of articles here. I have two articles. There is one here that talks about the process of deploying a server on Alibaba Cloud while using the free credit on your account. And also, I have another article here that specifically talks about everything you need to know about Alibaba Cloud free trial credit. Now, in this article, you will know it walk you through the process of creating an Alibaba account. You'll be able to know what types of accounts are available on Alibaba. There is individual account, the enterprise account. You also need you understand the requirements needed for setting up Alibaba Cloud account, the email address, the phone number, the payment method, basically all the basic information that you need to set up an account on any cloud platform. Now, you also understand how the free trial credit works. This is very important because if you don't understand this process, you may likely to be charged money when you deploy services that are not eligible. Now, I'll leave these two articles in the description. I'll leave their links in the description below in the video, so you can read all of them and understand the process of qualifying to get the free trial credit. You know the services that are eligible for the free trial credit scheme offered by Alibaba Cloud. Now, as you can see, there are a couple of services, but one of the most important services that we're gonna use in this video is called Elastic Compute Service. The Elastic Compute Service is similar to AWS EC2 Elastic Compute or AWS EC2, Amazon EC2. So it's the service that we use to deploy virtual machines on Alibaba Cloud. Just like on AWS, we use EC2 instances. So on Alibaba, we also use a similar service that is called ECS. So the ECS instances are the virtual machines that we deploy and configure so we can deploy applications on them. Now, this is the first article that I wrote it talks about the process of qualifying to get a free credit on Alibaba Cloud. Everything you need to know, the eligible services, the terms and conditions. So you will have to read this article, and I'm gonna leave the link in the description below. Now, the second article that you have to read, I actually advise you to first read this article so you can understand the entire process of setting up your account on Alibaba. And then after reading it and understanding the entire process, the terms and the conditions and the services that are eligible, then you can read this second article that specifically talks about deploying a Ubuntu server on Alibaba Cloud. And this is what we're gonna do primarily in this video, to set up a server on Alibaba Cloud, the entire process and all the technical configurations that are involved. Okay, now let's get started. If you don't know how to go to Alibaba Cloud, all you have to do is to always use Mr. Google, and it always have the answer for you. So you click Alibaba Cloud or search for Alibaba Cloud in Google search. When you search for Alibaba Cloud, then you have an option to either sign in or log in or sign up for an account. So I'm assuming that you don't have an account there. Or what you need is to create an account here. You click free account. It's basically a free process, so they won't charge you any money to sign up. All you have to do is to have your email address. You can either choose a business account or an individual account. Now, these two accounts are different when it comes to the free credit scheme, and also they are different in the process of signing up. For example, the business account, you are required to have some documentation with you. You're gonna have to you'll have to submit some documentation to verify your business entity so you can qualify for certain services on the platform. Now, in most cases, I would advise you to go with the hassle-free individual account, where you don't have to submit documentations to get started. This process can save time, and it's very simple. Now, in this case, you can go with an individual account. You can either sign up with your Gmail or Google, or you can just use your email address, and that is all, and put your password, and make sure you have the credit card information with you. Just like any other cloud platform, Alibaba requires that you integrate your credit card information on your account. This is a must. It's not an option. It's a must to prevent fraud, and also for verification purposes. And when you add your credit card information, they're gonna charge you about $0.5 or maybe $1 or less than $1 to verify the validity of your credit card information you put there. So if you don't have any balance on your account, your credit card balance, the card is likely to be dropped, because they want to make sure the card is working. So they charge that small money, and then later on they will refund that money back to your account. So the primary purpose of charging you that small fee is just to temporarily verify whether the card you've integrated is valid or active. And then the fee is gonna be returned back to your account, and that is all. So you must have an email address. You must have obviously the password is required. Use a secure password. You must have a phone number, a valid phone number that you can access with you. You don't just put any phone number, because they're gonna send a verification code on your number. So if you don't have that number with you when you're signing up, they will send the code and you won't be able to access it, and so they won't be able to verify your phone. Now, as I said, let me summarize for you this process. The process of signing up an account for individual users is that you need an email address, you need a phone number, you need a credit card information with you. Your credit card information, your credit card account must have some balance there, at least $1 or $2 for verification purpose. When they charge that small fee, it's a temporary charge, and they will refund your money. You don't have to panic when they charge that money. $0.5 or less than $1. Now, all this information is in these articles I wrote. So I'll leave both links in the description of the video down there. You can check out these articles and read everything you need to know when signing up for Alibaba Cloud account. Now, for me, I already have an account signed up, so I won't go through this process of signing up. If you want to know more, you read this article, then you can always find out how to go about this process. This process is hassle-free, it is simple, so it shouldn't give you headache. The process of signing up is very simple, and it shouldn't give you any headache when you're creating an account with Alibaba Cloud. Now, the first thing, if you want to deploy a server, there is something that you need to know. That is what we call a console. Now, inside a console, you can access your console through just right here at the upper side of the left-hand side of the platform. So as you can see where the cursor is, this is where you click to access your cloud console on Alibaba Cloud. Now, when you click there, I'm assuming that you've already logged in your Alibaba account. So when you log in, you have to click on console to be able to access your console dashboard. Now, from the console, that's where you can monitor the services that you've deployed on Alibaba Cloud. If you deploy servers, you're gonna see them here, or you will be able to see the recently accessed services on Alibaba from the console homepage. Now, from here, this is where you're gonna see things like safety monitor and other metrics about the servers or applications you've deployed on Alibaba. Now, how do we get the free credit? As I said, when you're a new user, make sure you are a new user. If you've ever signed up for Alibaba, the free credit won't be available to you. This offer is for only people who have never signed up with Alibaba Cloud. So make sure this is your first time to sign up with Alibaba Cloud. So when you sign up as a new user on Alibaba Cloud, you automatically qualify to get the free credit offering. Now, in this article, the article that I've written, to be able to access the free credit, you have to go to the free trial page. And the page, I'm gonna leave a link to this page in the description below. Or you can also, when you're reading this article, in fact, I would encourage you to read this article, because all the details in this video are found in this article. So when you're reading this article, you'll be able to click on this link. I've actually talked about going to the free trial page. It is down here. So when you click on it, you're gonna be taken to the free trial page where the free trial services are found. Now, as you can see from this page, there are a couple of services that are offered. Some of them are limited based on certain users. For example, the individual users cannot deploy the services that are offered to only enterprise user. So the services that are offered to enterprise users are marked with the banner enterprise only, as you can see from here. So all the services that are marked enterprise only are only limited to enterprise users. So this means that an individual user cannot deploy this instance because we are not eligible for this service. However, if you are willing to pay, you can deploy it. But if you just want to make use of the free credits that is available to you, then you are not qualified for this instance. Now, in this video, I would like to tell you this. There are basically two instance types that are available for you to try out as an individual user. Just only two instance types. The instance types, I'm talking about deploying a virtual machines using the ECS instance or Alibaba Elastic Compute Service. So there is this instance and there is this instance. Now, the difference between these two instances that are available to individual users is that the first instance which you're seeing here is that they only offer you 90 days or 3 months. So under this offer, they're gonna allow you to deploy a virtual machine with 2 virtual CPU cores and 2 GB RAM. So 2 virtual CPU cores and 2 GB RAM. Then they will also give you 40 GB for your disk storage on the machine, on the server, and only 1 Mbps of bandwidth. So you have to make sure these details, you understand these details. 3 months free for new users. And then after 3 months, you're gonna be charged money starting from $11.99 per month. So when the 3 months elapses, or when the 3 months elapse after you deployed your server using the free credit scheme, they will start charging you $11.99 per month or $12 per month. Now, the other credit offer which is there for individual users is this one. So this one, they will give you a credit offer up to 1 year. So this means that you can deploy this instance or this server for 1 year without paying any money. But the only limitation or the difference between this offer and this one is that you only get to deploy an instance with 1 virtual CPU core and 1 GB RAM. So basically this is just for small applications or maybe testing purposes, or not applications that are really enterprise level. So if I'll leave the decision to you to decide which instance type is suitable for you to try out. You can deploy this one that has 1 GB, 1 CPU core and 1 GB RAM, or you can try out this one with 2 virtual CPU cores and 2 GB RAM for 3 months for free. Now, there is also one thing that you need to know. This is an important detail that you don't want to miss out. When you deploy an instance using the free credit scheme, and then you delete it, or you want to deploy another one, you want to be allowed to deploy another instance under the free credit scheme. Alibaba only allows you to deploy once the server using the credit program. If you deploy one server, you want to be able to deploy it again, using their free credit. So this means that if you deployed the instance using the free credit plan, your offer has already elapsed, and you want to do it again using the free credit. The next time when you try to deploy the instance, they're gonna charge you money for any deployment scenario you're trying to execute. So it's important. Let me repeat one more time this important fact. Assuming you deploy this instance under the free trial credit scheme, and then you decide that you want to deploy another instance on the platform, anticipating that maybe it's also gonna be free, then that's not the case. They're gonna charge you money when you deploy a second instance after deploying the first using the free credit. So you have to keep in mind, you need to be aware of this important detail. Now let's proceed with configuring our server. To configure the server, all you have to do is to click on the particular instance that you want to deploy. You click there, and then you'll be taken to the configuration page. Actually, I've talked about the configuration page. I've talked about it here. So you click on the suitable, on the eligible instance type, and then you'll be taken to the configuration page like this one. Now this is where you configure the elastic compute instance from here. So Alibaba uses a service known as Elastic Compute Service, or ECS, which is similar to Elastic Compute for AWS. Now from here, you have two options for deploying your instance. There's what we call the quick launch and the custom launch. The quick launch is the simplified version of deploying an instance on Alibaba, because it's kind of minimalistic compared to the custom launch that has a couple of details. Now the quick launch, let me walk you through both deployment scenario. Let's start with the quick launch. Now the quick launch, the first thing that you need to do is to select your suitable region. The region is a geographical area that encompasses a group of data centers, So one Alibaba region can encompass over 5 or 10, over 1 data centers, physical data centers. So it's when you're deploying an instance, you have to select a region where your server is gonna be located, So basically, you are telling the Alibaba Cloud platform that you have to put my server resources in this region. Now, when do you decide the region you want to deploy your instance in? You decide the region by, for example, if you live in North America, you need to decide. You have to choose a region that is where, or that is nearest to you, or where you live. If you live in North America, then you're gonna have to select Europe and America. If you live in Asia, then you have to select Asia Pacific. If you live in China, then you have to select China. If you live in the Middle East and India, then you have to select Middle East and India. Now, if probably your customers are living, for example, if you are living in America and your customers are in Asia, your applications where your target audience or target customers are in Asia, so it's better that you select Asia instead of America, because that's where your customers, or that's where your traffic will be coming from. If your customers are in India and you live in North America or in Europe, you have to select Middle East, because that's where your customers are located. Now, from here, for this example, let's select Europe and America as the region, and then we also need to select what we know as a zone. A zone is a physical data center. It's where the physical data center is located. So a region can encompass or can have as many zones as possible. So a zone is a subset of a region within the cloud computing model. Can I repeat it one more time? A zone is a subset of a region within under the cloud computing model. So in each region can have as many zones as possible depending on the cloud provider you're using. So most cloud providers have operating various regions and various zones that have physical data centers. So when you select a region, you also have to select a zone where the specific data center that you want your application to be deployed in. Now, when you select North America or Europe and Americas, you can either select US Silicon Valley, US Virginia, Germany Frankfurt, those for Europe, UK London. Now, for this case, I'm gonna select US Silicon Valley. Okay, the next step is to select the instance type. Now, in most cases, the reason why they are charging me money here is that I've already exhausted my free credit scheme, my free credit offering. So once you deploy one instance, they're gonna start charging you money for the other deployments you make. Now, make sure that the instance type you are deploying is within the terms of your is under the terms or is eligible under the terms of the free credit scheme. For example, if you're deploying this instance type which is given you for free for 3 months, make sure the instance you are deploying has 2 virtual CPU cores and 2 GB of RAM. So make sure you're selecting the instance type that is eligible for the free trial program. The other thing for me, I'm gonna select this one, and when I select this one, then you have to select the image. The image is the operating system that is gonna be configured on your server. So for this case, you can either select CentOS, Windows Server, and Ubuntu. When you select any image, you also must make sure you select the right or the suitable version that you want. For example, if I want to deploy a Ubuntu, I can either select 22.04 or 22.04 and then 20.04. Okay, so this one, the 22.04 is the newest version of Ubuntu, and then there is this one. In most cases, the newest version has some compatibility issues with certain applications, because those applications may not be updated to be used on that newer version of Ubuntu or operating system. Okay, so you can select your suitable machine image, and you can also select anything you want. In this example, we are going with Ubuntu, and then from Ubuntu, and then we go to network type, VPC. VPC stands for Virtual Private Cloud. I have actually explained it here. I've explained it here in this article, what a VPC means. Alibaba Cloud VPC is a service that allows you to set up your virtual servers and applications within a virtual network, also known as a virtual private cloud. The Alibaba Cloud VPC mimics a physical network topology and configurations. Your server will be able to be accessed on the internet because of the VPC when you create an Alibaba Cloud account. A default, when you create an Alibaba Cloud account, a default VPC is automatically created for you in your suitable region where you want to deploy your virtual servers. So when you're just starting, every region that you select, you have a default VPC created for you. This means that you don't have to worry about configuring the technical network settings of your deployment. So there is always a default VPC created for you, and that's what you're gonna use. So here in the quick launch scenario, the default VPC is selected for you by default. Now, there is also another thing that you need to consider, which is network bidding. Here, network bidding, this is not important, especially if you're using the free credit. This could be important if you're gonna continue using your instance after your trial period has elapsed. But if you're gonna just want to do a test drive, then network bidding is not as important as you may think. Then another thing that you need to know is to make sure you check this box to assign your instance public IP address. Alibaba offers IPv4, so this is the IP address that is gonna be attached to your instance, and this IP address is very important because we need to use it to make sure we deploy, we access our server remotely using SSH. So make sure you check this box so your instance can have an IP address. Then the bidding method I talked about, you can say pay by bandwidth or by traffic. This is, you can leave this by default, and also make sure you're selecting the bandwidth capacity to be 1 Mbps, because this is what Alibaba offers under the free trial scheme, 1 Mbps of bandwidth. So if you increase the bandwidth, they're gonna charge you money for maximum, for more bandwidth capacity. So make sure you leave it to 1 Mbps. Quantity, obviously you need one server. And then the trial period, if you're selecting, maybe if you're going with the 3 months, then you can select 3 months, and then that is it. From here, you've set up most of the things under the quick launch. And from here, all you have to do is to go to preview, and then from here you can proceed. But because for me, I already purchased, I've actually used this instance, so I cannot, I'm not eligible right now for the EC2 for extra credit, because I've already exhausted my credit. So when I try to launch, they're gonna charge me money for launching the instance. Now, there is also one more important fact you should know about the quick launch process. When you're, as you can see that we've set up everything, we've selected the image, we made sure the network settings are set and other stuff, but we've not set anywhere, we've not seen anywhere where we set the password and the username. This by the way, you're using the quick launch process, the first, you have to first create an order, and your server is gonna be provisioned, and after provisioning, then you can reset your password from your console. So that's one of the most important fact you should know. If you're using the quick launch process, your instance will first provision, and then you have to go and reset the password. I will show this later in the video, how to reset the password in Alibaba Cloud Console. Now, the other thing that we need to talk about is the custom launch. The custom launch, I wouldn't advise you if you're a beginner, because it can be confusing to you when you use the custom launch scenario. The custom launch scenario has a lot of details, and then it can confuse you if you are not so familiar with this platform. But still, I would like to walk you through custom launch. The first thing is billing method. There is what we call subscription and pay as you go. In most cases, you can go with pay as you go. This is probably if you're gonna be paying for this instance that you are going with. The other thing you're gonna select is region that we talked about. So you can select a suitable region. You can click, hover down here, and then a couple of regions are gonna show down here, and then select the suitable region that you want. And then after that, you can also select the zone from here. you can either select the zone manually or you can click random, so a random zone will be selected for you by the system. The other thing is the instance type. You can select the type of instance. Here, this, especially if you're trying out, you just have to leave it by default. And then in most cases, down here, in most cases, you don't have to tamper with anything, especially if you've gone here to try out. Everything will be selected by default for you, and then you don't have to tamper with anything. But if it's not selected by default, then you have to come and look for this instance type. You have to look for this instance type, and then you select it from here. Make sure you select, because this one is ECS T5, ECS T5, ECS. Okay. 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 Let's try this. And let's try this. Okay. That is ECS. Okay. I think that this one is not really is not showing, maybe because I've already exhausted this ECS T5, ECS T5, but in most cases you need this is selected for you automatically if you are trying out Alibaba Cloud instances under the free credit scheme. So once you click try now, the right instance is gonna be selected for you. Okay. Now, when the instance is selected for you, you basically don't have to tamper with anything here. The quantity is just 1. And then image, as I said in the quick launch process, you can select your image. Here you can select either Windows Server, you can select Ubuntu, and then you also select the right version of Ubuntu that you want to deploy from here. The other thing that you need not to tamper with is this disk storage, unless if you know what you're doing, but by default it is 40 GB, which is also indicated here. Now it's 40 GB. If you want more space, you can increase, but they're gonna charge you money if you put a request for more space. Then after that, you basically need to leave everything as it is, and then go to the next step. Make sure okay, make sure that you're seeing $0.00 here. You are seeing money here because I've already exhausted my free credit. So I'm just walking you through the process of creating a server, but I'm not gonna deploy the server on the application here. Already I've exhausted my credit, but I'm just walking you through the process so you can do it yourself and benefit and make a test drive over this platform. Okay, so when you go to the next process, the next process is to let's say you go to next. Okay, they want me to select. Okay, let's try to select a sample server here. We select a sample server because that's what they want. We go to next. Okay, so when you go to maybe said confirm. Go to networking. Okay, go to networking, and then this basically, as you can see, using the custom launch scenario is kind of exhausting because there are so many details, but I would like to walk you through. Then here you have to select network type VPC. Automatically it is selected for you. The VPC network is selected for you. So you just have to leave it by default to make sure the default VPC is selected. Don't change anything here unless if you know what you're doing. Make sure you assign a public IP address. Click that box. Pay by traffic. Just as I said, you can leave it there and make sure a bandwidth is Mbps, 1 Mbps within your free credit trial scheme. And then the other thing that you need is the security group. The security group is by default selected. The security group is by default selected. Just like the VPC, the security group is also created for you by default. Okay? The security group is created for you by default, and it has some rules like SSH port 22 is actually configured in the security group. If you're deploying a Windows server, then RDP port 3389 is actually configured. So you have to just leave the default security group just as it is, unless if you know what you're doing in this process. So you just have to leave it like that. The other thing is elastic network interface. There is also a network interface that is created for you by default. So just have to leave it just the way it is for you. Okay, now IPv6 is not available, so you don't have to worry about IPv6. The next step is you go click next. Okay, now in this, okay, the next step is to just as I said, in the quick launch scenario, you're not able to set the login credentials, and you can only set the login credentials after the instance has provision, and you do that by resetting the credentials. But in the custom launch scenario, you can set the credentials. You have an option of setting the key pair, basically the SSH keys. The private key is installed on your server, and then the private key is stored on your local machine. So when you want to log in using SSH, all you have to do is to bind your private key, and then that key will authenticate you on the server because it will match with the public key that is stored on the server. I want to be going in the detail about how to create SSH key. That will be a topic on different day. In this example, we're gonna set the easiest way, which is the password. So you can type your own password here, and you can put your own password. Make sure you use a strong password. Make sure you use a strong password, and then by default there is a root user that is gonna be created for you. So there is a root user. So the root is your username that you will be using when logging in to your server using SSH. So root, and then the password that you create here. The other thing is to name your instance. You can name your instance anything you want, Yuga Comp, and you don't have, you're not, the naming convention is that you don't put space in between. You can either add, like, you can create something like this, or you can just put one word. Or I'm gonna put Yuga Comp as my instance name. You can also describe your instance. Maybe say this is maybe an instance for streaming, or VPS instance, VPN instance, or anything that you want to use the instance for. You can describe it using anything you want. You can also put the host name. So this host name, you can put any host name that you want. So it's up to you to make any decision. There is nothing that can limit you here. So you can name it, give it any host name that you want. Still, the quantity is 1. The next step is we are basically finalizing this process. Resource group, you can select a default resource group. You can deployment set. This one is not essential. And basically, you don't need anything else here. So all these are not essential here. The most essential parts have been set up already. Now, from here, you can go to next step. The next step allows you to preview the settings that you will set up, the bidding method, the networking, which is VPC, the network bidding method, the login credentials, password, and the hostname is YugaComp, your own hostname. And then the other details that you will set, or you'll be able to preview here. And after previewing them here, you're able to create an instance. So you just have to create click create instance, and your instance, once you're eligible for the free credit, the instance will provision and it will be created. Okay, let me summarize for you this process one more time. Make sure, let's go back a little bit. Under the custom launch, make sure you select the subscription. This is not important. It's important if you're gonna continue with the instance you're deploying, because they will be charging you money. So the right way is to use the pay as you go, which basically means that they will be charging you money per hour, because they pay as you go. They will charge you probably per hour, which is probably some 0.028 cent. So they will charge you money. But for the case of the free trial scheme, you don't have to worry about the bidding method. The other thing that you need to select is the region, which is you either have an option of selecting a random, or you can select a suitable region that is nearest to you, or that is nearest to your customers, your target customers who are going to use your application. You can select any region, and then the zone. So the zone, you can either select random or you specify the right zone you want. Then in most cases, the instance type, when you're using the free trial, is gonna select automatically by default, but you can still select any instance type based on your needs. You can select anything that you want. The other thing is to make sure you are selecting the image that you want to be configured on your server, the image which is basically the operating system that is gonna be deployed on your server. So this instance you can deploy like Ubuntu or Windows or CentOS, and then also select the version of your operating system that you want to be configured. Then the other thing is the storage, which is 40, and that is within the terms of the free credit. Then you can proceed. I'm summarizing this process because I've talked about it already. Make sure the network type VPC, select default VPC. So make sure everything is selected by default here. Don't tamper with anything unless we know what you're doing. Also, make sure you assign a public IP address. So your instance will be assigned an IP address. Public IP address is what we're gonna use to log in to the server. Okay, the other thing that you need to do is make sure you are within the 1 Mbps bandwidth. If you go beyond this, they will charge you money like that. Okay, the other thing that I probably forgot to talk about is that in the security group, make sure port 22 is selected, because the security group determines how traffic goes in and comes in to your server. So these ports are very crucial because we have to access the server using the terminal. So port 22 is for SSH, and then there is port 3389 for RDP or remote desktop protocol. The RDP ports are used for Windows servers and are used for RDP access using RDP client. This basically means that on a local machine, we can use an RDP client and then to access a Windows server that is deployed on Alibaba or any other cloud platform. So this port is crucial if you are running a Windows server. It's not crucial if you're not running a Windows server. Then port 22 is crucial if you're running a Unix system or a Ubuntu system, a Ubuntu server or CentOS or a Linux system, because this port is what we use for SSH, port 22. So you have to make sure it is selected. If you deploy a web server, basically you need to allow these ports for web server, the F44, port 443 for HTTPS, and port 80 for HTTP traffic. Okay, so these rules are defined by security group, and because there is a default security group, these ports are enabled by default. But if you can't do it, then you can also still edit them later when your server has been provisioned. Okay, so that is all what you need to know here, and then you can proceed. When you proceed, you make sure you set your password. The username is root. Put your password, confirm the password, the instance name your instance. You can describe your instance, the purpose of your instance, and also put the host name. Even if you don't put these details here, the instance name and the host name, Alibaba Cloud will generate for you some values, and you don't have to worry about. Basically, in this section, what you need to worry about is the password, and that is all. So from here, if you set everything correctly, you can just click next, and then you can either set the resource group, default resource group, and that is all. So from here, when you select next, you'll be able to preview everything you've set and then create an instance. That is all. Basically, the process is done and everything is set. So you just have to create the instance until provision, and when it's provisioned, you can go back to your cloud console. Just as I said, the cloud console is accessed. I talked about it here. The cloud console is accessed. Let me show you. I talked about it here, how to access the cloud console on Alibaba. The cloud console is accessed when you go and click on console, and then you'll be taken to your Alibaba Cloud Console. So from here, we need to go to ECS console, the ECS dashboard. So inside your console, you have to click the drop down and then click on Elastic Compute Service. This is where you're going to see the deployed instance. To see the instance you deployed, you go to ECS dashboard. Okay, ECS dashboard or Elastic Compute Service. All right, let's wait. I don't know, my connection is kind of slow, so please bear with me. Okay, as you can see, we already have one resource that is deployed, Elastic Compute Service. So once you deploy your instance, make sure you go to Elastic Compute Service dashboard. When you navigate to your console, you click the drop down and click Elastic Compute Service, and you'll be able to land here. So when you land here, all the resources that you've deployed, all the ECS instances that you've deployed, they will be listed here. So here I have only one instance that I've deployed, which is this one. So I can click on this instance, and then I can see more details of this instance. Now, this is where I have to show you how to reset your password, because if you're using the quick launch feature, you have to make sure you reset the password. I've explained it here down in this article. Here we have to reset resetting the instance SSH password. So you have to click on the instance name, and then you'll be taken to this section here. When you are taken to this section, from here you can click reset instance password. So when you click instance password, as you can see, the logon username is root, and then you can type in your desirable password, and then after typing in the desirable password, you can save the changes here. This is in case if you used the quick launch scenario that doesn't allow you to set the password when you're configuring the server. So this is how you do it. This is how you change the password and everything. Now from here, the other thing that I wanted to show you is to make sure you confirm that the security rules or the firewall rules are set correctly for you to access your server remotely. Now to do that, when you click on the instance, you can go and configure security group rule just as it is. I've also actually explained it here in the article. I don't know. Yeah, I've explained it in the article here. Set up the necessary firewall rules. I've set up here. I've explained it here. So all you have to do is to click configure security group, and then you'll be taken to a section that lists down all the security groups that are attached to your account. Now you can inside your account there could be as many security groups as many as possible, but because if you have a new account, there is always a default security group that is created for you, and your instances that you deploy will be attached to that security group. So when you click on that security group, you'll be able to see the rules, the firewall rules that have been set up, that have been defined for you. For example, in this security group, there is this port. I've actually been test driving this instance, so I have a couple of security rules that I've put. Some of these rules are for certain applications that I've deployed on this instance. But the most important rules that you need to make sure that are configured in the security group is to make sure port 22 has been set. So how do you add a rule? And assuming that the port 22 or SSH port has not been configured, you just have to add new rule, make sure action is allow, priority is 100, protocol type custom TCP, and then the port range you can select SSH, and then after that make sure the CIDR block is this one, 0.0.0.0/0. This basically means that you will be able to access your server remotely using SSH from any IP address, So this is what this CIDR block means. The 0.0.0.0/0 basically means that you're going to access your server from any IP address from anywhere. Okay, you can also describe the purpose of this port. You can leave this if you don't want. You can describe it, anything, but this is SSH port, so you can name it SSH port, and then after that you can save the changes. Now this is how you add security rules in Alibaba. If you have any other rule that you need to add, you just have to use the same method. Just click add inbound. By default, outbound traffic is allowed by default to the server, but inbound rules have to be defined, like SSH, RDP, HTTP, HTTPS, and other rules. Okay, so every time when you want to add a rule, you just have to use this method I've showed you. All right, so basically that is all what you need to deploy an instance on Alibaba. To connect to your instance, you can just You just have to get an IP address. This is the IP address of your instance, and then you probably paste it somewhere. The IP address, you paste it somewhere. Let me let me zoom. Let me try to zoom. Control plus. Okay. So this could be the IP address of your server. So the username, by default, the username is root. Username is root, and then the password is what you put there. That the password is what you created. So that is all. This is what you need to connect to your Alibaba Cloud instance. And then on your local machine, all you need is, you basically need to have an SSH client on your machine to be able to connect to your instance. This process, I am assuming that you know how to use SSH. If you don't know, please write comment in the description below, so I can make a video on how to set up SSH and everything you need to know about SSH. So please let me know if you want to learn how to use SSH to connect to remote servers. Thank you so much for watching this video. I request you to please like and subscribe to this channel. I want to get to 1,000 subscribers. Please help me to get there, and by doing that, you're supporting me, and it means a lot to me. When you watch this content and support me through watching and liking and subscribing and even sharing to my channel, sharing the links to my channel or my website, you're basically supporting me in such a way. But one more time, I will leave the two links in the description below to these articles. If you didn't understand the video, then you can use the articles I've written to understand everything you need to know when setting up an instance on Alibaba Cloud. Thank you so much for watching the video. See you next time.